What's up guys, today we're doing a full breakdown of a recent project that I did for Socal Chevy of their ZR2 trucks. If you haven't seen the commercial yet, the link will be in the description. I highly recommend you check that out first before you come and watch this video. So before I jump into the whole breakdown, I wanted to give you guys a quick background of how this whole commercial came up, what was the idea, how it all happened. So if you guys have been following me on social media, then you probably have seen that I've been working with Socal Chevy for about a few months now. And basically what happened was they reached out to me and they were like, we want to do a commercial for their ZR2 trucks. The idea was to make something epic and cinematic, do some action stuff. The only issue was that I had about 12 days to come up with the whole idea, bring up the crew and everything, find the location and go out there and get to work. After everything was taken care of, we picked the location, we went out there and we started filming. It was a great time, great crew. Overall, it was a fun project. It was actually my first time directing a full automotive commercial. I've done a few commercials before, but this was kind of like the very first time that I did it, not just for any car, but this was for a specific brand. So in this video, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna divide this into 4 different pieces. Just because this commercial does not have any storyline, it's just a mixture of a bunch of mixed cameras and shots and movements. And so what I want to do is, instead of breaking down shot by shot, I'm going to go based off the camera that we used and the certain shots that we got. So for the first category, we're going to talk about the drone, specifically the FPV. As you guys can see, the beginning shot was shot with an FPV drone. A very good operator, Melon. He did amazing job operating this whole setup. He did use a KOMODO with, I'm not sure what lenses he had on it, but this shot specifically was shot towards the end of the day because even though we wanted to have some sort of a sunrise in the whole commercial, sunrise usually lasts not as long as the sunsets, so we decided to do it in reverse and not get to the location at 5 a.m. for this specific. But the location you guys see, it's in Lancaster. It was very close to El Mirage. The reason I'm telling you that is because my original idea was to use the El Mirage as like a general location, but because this was a more of a corporate shoot, and also we needed time to get permits and stuff, and 12 days was definitely not enough. What we needed to do is we needed to find a different location, either to rent it or something else that we wouldn't have to deal with finding permits and all that stuff. It was a really nice place, had rock areas, had a bit of a dry, kind of like a dirt area where it was pretty cool. We had 2 trucks for this commercial. We had a Silverado ZR2 and a Colorado ZR2. That's their highest trim model. So the idea was to create that morning kind of sunrise of 2 cars getting into an action, driving it around, drifting, having their natural habits of what a truck's supposed to do, especially a performance truck. We got kind of lucky because of the weather. It was supposed to be 100-degree that day, but for some reason it was very cloudy. It almost even rained, so but it came out pretty nice and the sunset just looked pretty good. And so it actually turned out better than what I expected. The other shot that you guys probably noticed in there was the slow-mo shot of the tire, and that's because additional to the KOMODO, we also had a free flight Ember. We're shooting in 600 frames per second, and it allowed us to get all of those kind of very dramatic stopped shots that you don't typically get from just a typical camera. We were able to jump the car, so we got that in slow motion. And he also had it on the FPV, so later on when you watched, as you guys can see, like in other clips, there's a lot of FPV shots, and most of them were shot with a free fly Ember. So that basically covered up all the FPV shots. The cameras were pretty good. We did have a bit of a hard time color grading the free fly footage just because it was in HLG. Everything else was in log, so it gave us that bit of a difficulty to mix and match up, but it worked out great. Moving on to the next category, which in this case would be the A-Cam, aka the camera car. For the rig, we had the Tilta Hydra R Mini. Shout out to Tilta for letting us borrow the arm. I've been wanting to use that for ever since it came out, and I finally had that opportunity to actually use it on a location, and it was just a beast. We had it probably a lot heavier than what they recommend, so it was a bit of a challenge to get everything work together. For the camera system, we had the Ronin 2 as the gimbal, and then we had a Raptor X with the brand new DZO R-less primes and also map box, all the motors and stuff. The typical payload for that is about 22 to 23 pounds with the 3-arm setup. However, I think ours was about 30, so it all pretty much worked out and we didn't have any issues. However, the arm was just swinging left to right. I felt like it was gonna fall at one point, but everything worked out. As you guys can see, a lot of the shots right here were shot using the arm. It gave us the flexibility of moving it from the back to the front, to the side, getting some top-down shots, getting some low-angle shots, even getting close to the car without the car actually getting close to the camera car. I would say that was probably one of the coolest things about this whole project, that got to use something like that, and hopefully I'll have the chance to use them more. One issue that I had with this specific shoot, especially regarding the arm, was the fact that because it was a bit of a small budget production, and even though we had a big crew, I had to wear a lot of hats. I was being the director, DP, and I was also the crane operator. It was hard for me because I couldn't really pay attention to the monitor, and I had to always keep my eye on basically where the arm was moving, where it is at all times. It kind of made it even harder because then I wouldn't really see how the shot was coming out. I was just trying to almost like freestyle it and get kind of like some high-end shots and then low-end shots and then just move it around to just showcase everything in that certain moment. So it was a bit of a challenge, but we got it to work around. Armando was the one driving the camera car. He did a very good job driving, and also Luis, who was our first AC, and he was also the person operating the gimbal. Aaron Romo, he's another director's filmmaker that films a lot of cool projects, and I actually asked him to be the stunt driver for this because he has a truck, he knows how to do drifting, he knows how to do some fun stuff. So I was like, why not just be the stunt driver for this? And he killed it. He did a lot of good driving, he did a lot of drifting, jumping, I don't know, all sorts of stuff. The communication was there, and I think it worked out pretty good. So those are all the shots that we got with the car mount, and the footage from the Raptor and the RLS Primes were just very good. They worked out, they had that really nice look to it, and just, I don't know, it was my first time working with the Raptor footage, and I wasn't really sure how to get this to kind of like color grade to kind of match with what I was trying to do. But after playing with it a little bit, it worked out definitely a lot better. Our third camera option, or our third category in this case, would be the B cam, which was a Komodo X. Why we chose the Komodo X as a B cam? Because the footage looked really good in comparison with the Raptor X. So we didn't have any issues with that. It was just almost identical to both images. Also, we were using the Focus Pro for that setup. Now, the Focus Pro was just perfect because it allowed us to program the lenses just from the app, so you didn't have to do the whole manual calibration of those lenses. They actually had them programmed in the app, and most of the time the car was super sharp. It didn't jump off, it wasn't rack focusing anyway, it was just completely sharp the whole time. So if you want to have an autofocus system for that, definitely recommend that. I even did a review on that, so you can check that out if you want to. But Focus Pro was pretty good. I liked it. It allowed us to get all sorts of shots, like coming up this rocky area, and just anything that was handheld and detailed shots, we used that, and I didn't need to worry about the autofocus or pulling focus in general because of the way it performed. And lastly, let's talk about the other cameras that we ended up using for this project, which were a Sony FX3 and also the DJI Osmo Action 2, I believe. For this hard mounted shots, we used the Sony FX3 with the same RLS Prime lenses. It was much easier to set it up because of the compact size on the FX3, and it was also pretty easy to just color grade and color match with the red footage. And also for the suspension shot, we ended up using the Osmo Action 2. We didn't really want to risk the FX3 getting this close to the floor. Everything else was basically just a mixture of everything that we did. Again, the crew was really good. We got to just lock everything in and go out there and shoot it. Now that I told you guys about how we shot this video, let's get into the whole post-production process, because I think that's where everything that you envision comes to life. And probably one of the important things when it comes to shooting car videos is finding the right music. And for that, I got to use the audio.com, which didn't technically sponsor this video, but they gave me access to a website and I was able to find the song that I needed. Basically, they have a lot of great selection of music and sound effects, which I used a lot of them in this specific commercial. And they also have something called Link Match AI, which allows you to find any specific song that you've listened before that it's like technically copyrighted, and you can copy the link, paste it in there, and it will give you a bunch of similar options. For example, during the time of this filming, I actually went and watched the Deadpool movie, and there was a soundtrack in there that I really liked, and I wanted to pick something kind of similar to what that song was. And so I found it, I copied the link from Spotify and then pasted in there, and it gave me a bunch of options that were really close to what exactly I was looking for. Even though I didn't use any of them, it still had great collection of bunch of music and sound design. So, and another thing was is that they have something called elements, which allows you to remove all the stems from the sound. So you can pick and choose a specific instrument in the music and you can use that for a specific shot. Huge thanks to Audio for giving me access to this. And if you want to check that out, the link will be in the description. Feel free to sign up, and they have a lot of great song selections, so you won't have to worry about any copyrights whatsoever. Well, that concludes the overall breakdown of this commercial. I hope you guys liked it, and if you guys have any specific questions about things that I didn't really cover, please leave a comment down below. Again, huge thanks to the whole crew that was part of this project. Huge thanks to Maven Managed for giving me the opportunity to come out and direct this cool, amazing project. And thanks to the dealerships for letting us use their vehicles for this project, and all the brands that let us use their gear. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys on the next one.